Welcome to Okrah. In this 4-part series, we will be discussing caregiver burden, what it is, and what you can do about it. Be sure to watch all 4 parts and check out Okrah.com for more helpful information. Whether you become a caregiver gradually or suddenly due to a crisis, or whether you are a caregiver willingly or by default, many emotions surface when you take on the job of caregiving. Some of these feelings happen right away, and some don't surface until you have been caregiving for a while. Whatever your situation, it is important to remember that you too are important. All your emotions, good and bad, about caregiving are not only allowed, but valid and important. Many feelings come up when you are caring for someone day in and day out. Many caregivers set out saying, "This won't happen to me. I love my mother, father, husband, wife, sister, brother, friend, etc." But after a while, the negative emotions that we tend to bury or pretend we aren't feeling surfaces up. Caregivers are often reluctant to express these negative feelings for fear that they will be judged by others or judge themselves or don't want to burden others with their problems. Guilt and shame can do one of the following: either paralyze us or be a catalyst that inspires us to act. Guilt can lead us to experience various emotions such as grief, resentment, worry, anger, empathy, compassion, and to some extent, loneliness. Guilt is a persistent emotion that you should not ignore. Sometimes guilt can be a productive emotion, the nagging voice in your head that causes you to examine your behavior and decide whether a change is in order. If you feel guilty because you were impatient with your loved one, it's a reminder that maybe you try harder or take a deep breath next time. Unfortunately, the one that hinders us from thriving is bad guilt. Bad guilt has no constructive underbelly. Bad guilt makes you feel bad about a situation that you can't control or that is a positive for you. Bad guilt causes us to beat ourselves up for reasons that are unrealistic and counterproductive. Beware of the red flag words such as ought to, should have, could have, always, and never. Ban them from your vocabulary. They are warnings that you are setting the bar too high. The words always and never are toxic because they set you up for future guilt. Expressions and commitments like "I'll never put you in a home" or "I'll always be here" should be avoided. Don't promise things that you can't be 100% certain of in life. Don't discount yourself. Selfless people and dominant caregiver personality tend to feel proportionately more guilt because they work so hard aspiring to an idea of doing things for others. They tend to ignore the inconvenient reality that they must look after themselves more. They may even forget that they too deserve extras and shortcuts and breaks. Trust your needs, your perceptions, your value in this situation. No caregiver anticipates every fall or prevents every bed sore. No matter how much you love the person or feel you owe him or her, you will be happier if you lower your standards to the level of real life. Remind yourself of your true goals. Ideally, you should be striving to give your loved one a secure life free of worry or pain while maintaining your own quality of life and health. Don't beat yourself up over the small stuff. Steer clear of comparisons. We feel guilt when we feel that we're falling short of some imagined ideal. Where do those ideas come from? Often from our own heads. We compare ourselves to someone else without stopping to calculate what their stress levels or support situation is like, without allowing that every case is different. All that matters is you and yours, and how to make your hard situation as easy as you can. See it as a sign of strength and not weakness. It is perfectly fine to seek help when you need it. Strong, smart people know that Alzheimer's care is not a task for the isolated and solitary. The more you can delegate and share, the better it is for you. Only those with too much hubris and willful ignorance of reality think they can do it by themselves. Strong and smart people, when they get help, they don't look back and feel guilty about it. A feeling of guilt can do one of two things for you. If you let it, guilt can make you feel bad about yourself and breed anxiety, stress, or even depression. Or you can choose to view guilt as a helpful motivator to improve. Caregivers may feel guilty for not feeling guilty. There is even happiness guilt, when caregivers feel bad about feeling good, or when caregivers feel guilty for not feeling guilty. Grief is a form of deep sorrow that often could be emotionally and psychologically overwhelming. Grief is the response to loss, particularly to the loss of someone or some living thing that has died, to which a bond or affection was formed. Although conventionally focused on the emotional response to loss, grief also has physical, cognitive, behavioral, social, cultural, spiritual, and philosophical dimensions. Grief could be detrimental to the overall health and well-being of a caregiver. Guilt could be felt and expressed in more than one form. Guilt for what I'm not doing enough is a common one. I should be spending more time with my mom. I should not be working long hours. I need to spend more time with my dad. When I'm with my dad, I should not be on my laptop, but rather engaging with him. Guilt for what I'm doing is another one. I feel bad when I take my husband to the day center, but I really need a break. I shouldn't rush Grandpa through his meals. I should be able to care for my mom without complaining, as she is my mom. Guilt for not doing enough is another common feeling. Guilt for being away is a feeling some children experience, especially the ones that live and work far away from their parents. Caregivers that use respite care are gashed with feelings of insufficiency for not being there 24/7, even though the person with Alzheimer's don't seem to mind. Guilt for traveling or having a good time. Spouses and caregivers tend to have this feeling of guilt, especially when they are out for a party, an event, or a function. Feeling guilt is an emotion that caregivers feel even after assurance by others that they are doing the best they can. As a caregiver, one is likely to feel a wide range of emotional responses, whether positive or negative. Though caring can be rewarding, it is also hard work and stressful. Emotions such as grief and anger are healthy responses to difficult situations. It could help one move forward. However, emotions such as guilt can be destructive, leaving us feeling powerless or stuck. Guilt is a feeling we have when we do something wrong. Guilt also can affect individuals with Alzheimer's disease. Guilt for being impatient with their caregiver. There is guilt over not loving or even liking the individual with Alzheimer's disease. A feeling of not doing enough or good enough job is a form of guilt. If the individual with Alzheimer's disease falls, there is guilt of being at fault. Much of the guilt caregivers feel is undeserved, with no constructive basis, and can in fact be destructive. The unjust guilt caregivers feel is often fueled by the demands of the role, the expectation of others, as well as the expectation of themselves. Guilt can be a very exhausting emotion. It is important to identify feelings of guilt. After identifying the issue, it is critical to understand why one got the feeling of guilt in the first place. It is very important to realize that you are not alone. It is vital to forgive yourself and develop a positive attitude. Thank you for watching part 1. Be sure to watch part 2, where we discuss real-world situations and experiences. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and visit us online at Okrah.com for more great content.